Added to this lecture is some background lectures which have come from my other classes that I thought would be useful for you. This actually came out of my digital promotion class, which is about building a website, how do you promote, email, social media, all of that. I think it's also for grad students. It's a 494, 598 class, and I think it'll be available next year online. So if some of you are still around and want to learn how to do that, I highly recommend it. Yeah, I'm a little biased. Anyway, little entertainment for you.
Go.
There it goes.
Go. Easy. What? Yeah. Alright. Baby's here today. Yeah. Alright. Baby's here today. Yeah. Yeah. Alright. Yeah. Alright. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that was my grandson. This is around the time I did the original lecture. Anyway, when we look at the universe of all the pieces that go into digital marketing, whether it's affiliates, which are third parties, email, and everything else, the center of your universe, no matter whether you're on mobile or whatever, all comes down to the web. Everything eventually touches the web. You're going to go to your website in one shape or form. And complementing the web is your offline type of marketing, and that's that there's still a place for physical marketing. In this class, and this is another kind of interlude into something a little different. In web design, I realize it's just about as much as art. Everybody talks about symmetry. Symmetry is an engineering pursuit. Why? Because you get to cut the problem in half. But really good visual art isn't about symmetry. It's about balance. And that's where you look at this ballerina, very elegant. But she illustrates the point that I'm striving for. Shapes also have a dynamic, how you lay things out. When you have rectangular, you're basically pointing at flow. If you have a square, you're talking about something static, something moving. You have a rigid shape, which has even sides. On the other hand, if something is round, there's not a beginning, there's not an end, and so we look at that as being radial, as emanating outwards. Like when we look at the sun, when we think about circular objects, they go out. The different ways that we build things together is they can be additive. They can assemble together, or we can carve it. We can mold it, or we could do something in the abstract. We can put pieces together. So flow of objects, they could be horizontal, they could be vertical, but as you can see, the way we lay it out gives it shape and form. They can be stacked, they can be tiered up, where we distinctly show how something builds up. That was the whole point to the Empire State Building. We build up towards the sky. There's something called second articulation. Look at this White House if it didn't have those cross beams. Those cross beams all of a sudden give formation instead of something nebulous. When you do something running counter to where the domain dimension's going in this case the longest dimension is in and out, it brings balance to it. Symmetry, less is more. Is it something simple? Or is art about less is boring, if we should be dynamic? There's no right or wrong answer, as you could see. However, the main thing to understand is the context of where things lie next. And I believe I showed this in a previous lecture, where a window sits on a steeple, which sits on top of a building, which sits in a neighborhood. Everything has context of what it sits into. Now, once upon a time in Dr. Cho's younger days, He was actually editor of his dormitory newsletter, The Baker Letter, and I used to do my own art. I used to draw my own covers. And yes, if you look at the top drawing, the caption is that boat for sale? Get it? Boat for sale? Anyway, when you look at drawings, when they're well ordered, what happens is they come in boxes. There are sections. So the entire drawing fits in that box. And then the landscape is a second box. And then the boat is another box. And as you can see, each of those are boxes that fits. Now, how do websites work? How do you communicate? Well, on one side you have the client, and the other side you have the server. The server has the information, and the client is where your request comes from. So what happens is when you interact with your computer, you're going through either HTML, JavaScript, or Flash process. And what happens is when you type in something, you put in a request, and that's your HTTP, which is Hypertext Protocol. And what happens is that the server runs on a different kind of software, MySQL, and what it generates is HTML and CSS as an output. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit, but we're talking about the art. And so it responds to you, and it gives you web pages, images, or whatever. So the process is you type in your web address, the browser goes to a DNS and finds the real address, meaning every website has that number, and you've probably seen it. And so you're actually putting in a request saying, hey, can you send me this information to the server? And then the server decides whether it wants to send it to you. What your browser does is take this information and reassembles it so you can look at it. Some of you may have gotten just the code form of websites or something like that. It's the browser that takes those commands and reassembles it in the picture that you typically see. So your server is storing sites and web pages and apps, and it has a name. If you type that number in, you'll be taken to the Mozilla.com website. And so that's how the whole thing works and comes together. The composition of websites. I think I'm going to quit here because it's not relevant to the rest of the conversation, but if you want to, you can look through it. But your composition, your websites, basically it's written from this kind of software. And your assets are your images, your documents, basically what defines your contents. And so these are the building blocks that build up your website. And CSS is referred to as cascading style sheets. And these are the colors, the backgrounds, the images, how you arrange it on your website. So as you see, you need to be experienced in different kinds of software in order to build a website. Yeah, I just thought that'd be a good place to break off. But anyway, if you're interested, you can go ahead and look at the rest of it.